All right, everybody. Are you ready to get started? It's so glad to be with you guys again. I was away for a week or two. Yep, my family got taken. We got whisked away to Disney World almost 3 weeks ago now, and it was really amazing. The first time I got to go. So I'm really glad to be back. You want to open up in prayer?
Yeah, absolutely. Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for this gathering, these amazing people who want to seek you deeper. So Lord, we just ask that you open their eyes, their ears, and their hearts to what you have to say today. Lord, let none of the secrets that are hidden in heaven be contained there for any longer. Lord, we ask that you open them up and allow us to see the treasure that you have for us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Amen. So one of the things that I remember the last time we were here, I had asked you guys to each come back with a testimony of how you moved in the prophetic. So does anybody have a testimony they want to share?
I'll share.
Okay.
Hold on. I was going to share here. So I went to Walmart and not sure how this was going to work. And I was like, okay, I'll do a person with a yellow shirt. And I wasn't seeing anybody until I went to check out, and there was a young girl with a yellow vest. So I just went out on a limb, and I just said to her, do you know that Jesus loves you? And she just smiles at me. And I said, I just want you to know that, that whenever you go through something, he wants to hear from you. And she kind of registered me, and it was very weird on both ends. It's not much of a testimony. I just want to share my experience. But here I am telling her Jesus loves her and telling her, you can call out to him whenever you need help. And there was no fear. And that was it was afterwards that I walked away. I'm like, oh my word, I did that without any fear. I don't feel like I did anything prophetically, but it was so cool to be able to wow, I stepped out. So thanks for the homework.
Well, that's awesome. That's great, because I was going to ask you, how did you feel when you stepped out?
Like I did nothing prophetically, but I stepped out in confidence.
But to step out prophetically, you have to start somewhere, and that's what you did. You opened up.
Yeah.
So that's really great. I'm glad that you didn't have any fear at all, right? Because he's going to protect us with his perfect peace as we do this. Yeah. Does anyone else have anything they want to share? Testimony? Oh, Nicole does.
Yay. So while I was in Disney World, we were staying at a hotel, and we don't often stay, I've never really stayed at a real hotel before. And it had an elevator, which I found out I don't like elevators. But I was in there with my husband and my daughter Loretta, and there was a man standing in the elevator with us, and I heard, I forgot the salt. And so I look at him and I said, oh, you need some salt. And he's like, yes, I do actually. I need some salt. My wife asked me to get it. I went out there. I got everything but the salt. And I said, oh, well, you know what? That's going to ruin your meal. I said, they come in the little things inside of the room. He said, yeah, we ate it all. And I said, oh, well, we haven't touched ours. Would you like to have it? He said, you are a lifesaver. I go inside. I give it to Troy, and he runs it back to the elevator. And then Troy came back in the room and said, why did you start talking to him about salt? And I said, well, he needed salt. And he's like, he didn't say anything about salt. That was weird. And I said, are you sure? And Loretta said, no, it was weird, Mommy. And so I had that knowing, I guess that word of knowledge in his voice. I thought he was speaking out loud, but I was catching on to his mindset that he needed salt. And, I looked at my husband and I said, well, I guess I'm the salt of the world, and nothing like that can be hidden, right? So once we start stepping out, right, and it starts with sharing love and truth and faith, the more you start stepping out, the more you're going to start being aware of what's going on around you and sensing things about people and picking up on them prophetically, and then you act out. Now, I don't think that was so much of a prophetic word that occurred rather than picking up on his thoughts the same way Jesus sensed things, but it was an amazing gift for his whole family.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's really cool. And wait a minute, didn't you see him later on? And
Oh yeah, we saw him later on, and he said thank you again, and that his wife said thank you as well.
Yeah.
Is that what?
But did he acknowledge that
he
it
didn't
was-
say.
Oh yes, he did say. Sorry. So he did acknowledge. He did not say that out loud the second time we saw him, and he was wondering like how I knew. And so I just said, I'm a daughter of Christ, and it was really good. So I got to share the goodness of God the second encounter. Yeah. Sorry. Thank you.
No, that's good.
Good job finishing up the testimony.
Well, I'm glad I heard it once before. So
Yeah.
That was awesome. It's an amazing testimony. So a lot of times I'll get words of knowledge, impressions, and I just take a chance because I used to be afraid and wonder what people are going to say and how I was going to look, and then I realized it's not about me, it's about Jesus, and it's about stepping out and loving on somebody else. And even if I don't get it right, at least I share love, right? So last night we went out to dinner, and we had a waitress, and I just felt the word sport. I'm like, okay, sport. And I always like to pray with our waiter or waitress, or ask them, how can we pray for you? And so the waitress came over, and I knew she was in school, and I said, what are you gonna do when you finish school? And she's like, I'm only my first year, I really don't know. I'm thinking about communications, I'm thinking about this, or sports. And I'm like, all right. And then I just told her, I said, well, I think it's gonna be sports. I said, I see your necklace, I believe, I see that you believe in Jesus. I said, and I tend to hear from Jesus pretty clearly, and heard him say the word sports for you. And she got so excited, and she was like, because it's like a dream for her. It's like a desire of her heart, and when the Lord reveals it to somebody else, to her, it just makes sense that she knows, okay, I think I'm on the right path here. I'm doing the right thing, and it's like guidance from the Lord. So you never know what's going to happen. Take a chance.
Yeah.
It's not about you. It's about you stepping into the facade of Jesus Christ. And when you approach somebody, you look like Jesus. It doesn't have to be about the way Kathy looks, or Norm looks, or Pat looks, or Nuno looks. It's how Jesus looks when I talk to people. Yeah. I'll ask one more time. Anybody else have any?
Come on. There's no way.
Well, I'll just share about, you were speaking before, so nothing prophetic, but last week, actually about fear. So we did the impartation last week, and I've been gifted with many things. The Lord blesses me all the time, and I just look to see what surprises He has next.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of hesitant to go through the impartation because just a little fear, I've never in my life spoke in tongues or anything like that. And Pastor Chris was like, go through, see. So going through, and as we're getting up to the line, my heart starts palpitating, and I feel the Spirit.
Yeah.
And as soon as I have hands laid on me, it's almost like I was gonna faint. And then as I started going down through the line, I started speaking in tongues. But then I got a little fearful, and then it stopped. So the Lord really will meet you at your expectations. So the more you do step out in faith and know and trust that I know you have me, Jesus, that it's just gonna explode.
Exactly.
But it's baby steps for me, I guess I would say, because but it's a true testimony.
Amen. So,
Yeah.
amen.
And every single step taken is a step gained, right?
That's
Right,
And
yeah.
you have to take that flame and fan it into a fire.
Yeah.
So every time you take a step or you take a hit, it keeps growing and growing and growing. Oh my goodness, that's good.
And
Good job.
when you think about fear and faith, they have the same exact definition. But he's gonna.
No,
He's gonna.
that's okay.
The difference between fear and faith is your expectation. Is your expectation in failure, or is your expectation in hope? Right?
Go ahead.
I have a brother in Alabama who had a heart attack like 2.5 months ago and has since been was in a coma state for a long time. He had open heart surgery, organs started failing. I mean, it really appeared as though he was going to die. He was on a ventilator and in really tough shape. And we've been praying over him. His daughter is an incredible Christian, and she would go in and anoint him and pray over him. This is all while he was still, in a coma. And we were singing, was it last Sunday, Dry Bones, in here?
Yeah.
And I had a vision of him sitting up in bed and talking. And he talked right after that.
Wow.
So it was like something that God had let me see, that he had sign in terms of staying in the facility that he's in. They only give you, I think, 30 days. And if you don't show improvement, then you're sent to a nursing home, basically to die.
Wow.
So the fact that he is responsive now to the point where he told my niece to get out of the room, you know, he was tired of hearing about Jesus. But he's awake, and I know God's got this, and I know he's gonna be saved.
That's awesome.
Amen.
Yes, yes.
That's awesome.
Thank you so much for sharing
That's
that.
great. Anybody else? Anyone from this side of the room?
I mean, I have some
Yeah.
I don't know if this was like prophetic or like a word of knowledge. I don't know. Maybe you guys. But sometimes like before I go to bed, I'll just lay in bed and like, okay, Lord, is there anything you want to show me? And then I'll get like pictures. So I saw a picture of this woman who goes to our church, and she was at the altar and she was painting the paintbrush, and she was like, "This is awesome. This is awesome." And then so I saw the girl, the woman, the next day at church, and I wasn't gonna tell her, and I walked by her. It was like God brought us really close, but I didn't say anything, and I'm like, oh, I should probably say something. But then it happened again, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna say something. So then I told her, I was like, hey, every time I, think about you, I keep seeing this picture of you painting at the altar, and you were like really excited about it. And she was like, oh my gosh, I've been really talking to the Lord about how I want to start painting again, and she was like really excited about it, and she gave me this huge hug, and even though it didn't mean really anything to me, it seemed like it meant a lot to her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
And that could be an activation in that person's life because you stepped out and you showed your faith and took a chance.
So was
and
that a
spoke
word
to
of
her.
knowledge, or
It's
what
a word
was
of
that?
knowledge.
Okay.
Yeah. But word of knowledge leads to the prophetic as well, right? Because we could foretell and we can foretell.
She's not actually painting right now.
No,
So
she's not
that's-
actively painting. So Andrea's word to her is a word of encouragement that could lead her or activate her into what God wants her to do. So it's an activation you just
Right.
performed on her.
And it's a word of knowledge only because she's seeing her prayers that are current.
Okay.
So it's not like forward. Yeah. Is that what you were pondering?
I was thinking it was prophetic because she was telling her what she was going to be doing.
Yeah. No, she was confirming the Lord has heard your prayers. And it's really good.
Yeah.
So, are we ready to shift over?
Yeah, we're gonna shift over to processing word. So last week we talked
I
about,
have a question.
oh.
I'm still hung up on the salt.
On the salt?
On the
Okay.
salt. Is the salt thing, is that prophetic or is that a word of knowledge? I don't understand.
I believe that was a word of knowledge or hearing someone's thoughts. I think a lot of times they coincide together. So you could call it word of knowledge. Yeah. But I heard it in his voice. Normally when I have a word of knowledge, I hear it in the Lord's voice about someone. So I can say, hey, you're someone who really likes the season of spring. I actually see that, knitting brings you joy, and that when you look in your granddaughter's eyes, da-da-da-da-da. So for me, that's more of a word of knowledge, just speaking out their current life, right? So I actually, when I had heard the salt, I have never heard this man's voice before, but it was his voice that I heard. And then when he spoke, that confirmed it. So I actually thought he was speaking, which he wasn't. So it's a
you
little
really
bit,
thought he spoke it. How
Yes.
do you tell the difference? Like,
I
voice
couldn't
in
tell
your
the
head or,
difference. I couldn't tell the difference. It was audible
yeah.
to me. I've never experienced anything like that, so I can't explain it. But yeah,
Okay.
yeah, very different. So I wonder if that's how it was when he's like, you Pharisees, like what was Jesus hearing?
Mhm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like incredible.
Okay.
God can do anything. Anything. We just have to partner with it and believe it. He's the God of the possible.
Yeah.
So last week we spoke about processing word, and we started with judging a word, making sure that you get a word, you judge a word. If you don't quite understand it, take it to people that you do know, who understand the prophetic, who understand how to process a word, to help you through it. Talk to people that are in your life who know about you, and you can ask them, does this kind of gel with who I am, or where you think I'm going, where you think I'm called to? So that we have an idea of, is this something for me, or is this something I toss out? It's not really good for me. it doesn't match up with what God says about you. So after we've judged the word and we actually believe it, we want to start processing the prophetic word. So today, that's what we're actually going to do. So Nuno got a beautiful word from the Lord through Michael Dalton a few months ago. It was powerful for us to hear. How powerful was it? Come on up, come on up. You want the soft chair or the hard chair?
Here's a copy.
So I broke your word down. So what I did is I took, and if anybody has this, I'll just talk about this real quick. So if anyone was here and they received the prophetic word when Michael Dalton was here, it's recorded, it's up on our YouTube channel. So if you go on the YouTube channel and you look below the video itself, there's a save button. Next to the save button are these three little dots. If you click on it, it says show transcript. You can see all the words that Michael Dalton actually spoke. So you don't have to stop recording and write it down, stop recording and write it down. You can actually just go and get the transcript based off of YouTube video itself. So that's what I did to get his word here. So if you do receive a word, it is on video. It's a nice, easy way to be able to get the transcript yourself and process it.
And that's important, right? Because part of processing the word, the first thing was write it down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there you go. It's already done. Thanks, YouTube. So how did you feel when you received the word? Like, did you
Well, I felt nervous. I don't know, out of place. There was nothing ever, like this happened to me before, so I was a little scared of it.
Yeah.
But, we'll see.
How about like when, and we'll go through the word. We have his word. We're going to go through it line by line. But when he started prophesying over you that you're going to go here and you're going to do this, how did that resonate with you? Is that part of your past? Is it part of something you ever thought about for your future? Or is it all brand new?
In my way, I always look out for kids.
Uh-huh.
I always love kids, I always try to protect them. I get mad when somebody tries to, hurt them or say some stuff to them that I don't think they should hear.
Yeah.
I get really upset.
Right.
So, in me growing up, let me put it this way, my father died very young.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to step up, a lot quicker than I should, grow it up a lot quicker than I should. And he died very young, I was 14 years old. So I think that kind of affected me, in a good way, on me trying to protect, protecting my brother, protecting other kids, that were around me. So that's basically.
Yeah. So part of that word, it grabbed you like, oh, yeah,
Yep.
this is me. Okay. So isn't it amazing how well God knows us? Like it was great. I love to be able to see there and watch these people, just God speak to them about like who they were. Like when Maria got called out because Maria's a missionary, I was like, oh, because I know how badly she wants to get back out into the field. And I heard it, and I'm like, oh, yes, God, yes, God, yes, God. So for you, did you feel like inspired to want to go and run and do what he called you to do?
I felt more inspired talking more to people.
Yeah.
Like I got a friend of mine that his son is 16 and his son just got arrested about a month ago.
Okay.
And he didn't know what to do. So he works with me.
Yeah.
And he kind of asked me, I don't know what to do because he's getting divorced. His wife doesn't let him see his kid. He couldn't see him in prison, this and that.
Yeah.
And I tried, listen, you can't give up. You got to go after, where you think it's best.
Yeah.
You can stop talking to your kid because your kid, he's your son. So you can't give up on him. And he did. He found a lawyer. He went to talk to his lawyer. And he's like, no, she can't do that. You allowed to see your kid. You allowed to go to prison to see him. And yeah, I've been talking to him, and now it's a little bit better.
So based upon the word that you got and the things that happened shortly thereafter, you got that word. Does it line up with what he told you?
Yes, it does.
It does, right?
Yes, it does.
So and that happened to me too, just like a very short time frame afterward. So when he came and he released the word, do you feel like it was like word was activated over you, and then it wasn't like you were looking for that opportunity to go into the prisons or to do anything like that, right? It just happened.
It just
flowed,
happened, yes.
Right? Yeah.
It just happened.
Yeah, it's amazing. That's fantastic.
So can I take a second? I want to
Please.
read the word
Yeah,
to everyone before we get started, okay? So, oh my brothers sitting right over there. I saw you running full speed. I mean full speed like a bull charging. And you were charging into prisons. And what I heard the Lord say, young men who have never been taught what a father is, you are going to break through the system to get to them. And I saw young men around your feet. And you were saying to them, you are going to live, little brother. You are going to live, son. And they saw you as a big brother and a father, and you spoke life to them. But I saw literally guards all around you. I saw wardens around you. I saw lawyers around you. There's something about the educational system and the system of putting these young men behind bars and retraining them and teaching them. God's going to put you right in the middle of jails and prisons and education to save young men, and you shall be an example to them. And God says you're already ready. There are things you've been through that have prepared you for the next season. You're already ready.
Praise God.
Yeah.
So had we gone through that first, and then you heard his testimony, the Lord said you wouldn't have heard it as well. He said, but because we processed what he was going through, what he felt, what he experienced, then you were able to take the data points and say, oh, and apply them to all the things that happened in his life. I'm feeling the Holy Spirit for you.
Come on.
So, yeah,
That's powerful.
So when you got this word, did you look at it written yet? Have you looked at it written?
No.
No.
I mean, I looked it over and over and over YouTube, trying to understand it first. No, never written that.
Okay. So the first part of processing the word is going through and looking at the things that are meaningful to you, right? So can you go through the processing list?
Yeah, so the processing list is the first thing is to type it out, double space your prophetic words. And you guys all have this from last week. You did.
And if you don't, I have
I got
I got one.
Okay.
So I'll wait for everyone.
You okay? Yes or no?
Thanks, Andrea.
This is yours. Okay, so now that everybody has them, we'll go through them. So the first one is to type out in double space the prophetic words that you want to process. So if you can get it from YouTube, it's fantastic. It's a little bit.
This is on page 2, sorry.
Yeah, it's on page 2, I'm sorry. It's just processing the prophetic words sub-heading of the handout. The second one is to circle any words that refer to who God says you are. These are also called identity words. So if there's any identity words, if he's calling you a son, or if he's calling you this, or he's calling you that, I'm calling you to do this, you want to circle those words as well. And it's best to have different colors, like a legend, like I'm not anywhere near as gifted in administration as some people, but I do like legends, I do like maps, and for me, I like to see things in a big map, and those different colors really help me a lot. So a legend for these things is really great as well.
I'm sorry, you make a legend for the different identities, or
I
all
like to
identity
use
words is one color, and
Right.
all words that's prophetic
Yeah.
is one color?
Exactly, yeah. Well, and you can, however you feel comfortable doing it yourself too, right? The next is underline any promises that God is making directly to you, right? And that's really important because we want to prophesy or promise over these things. So right now where Nuno is, I'm not sure if you're praying into this word that you received, Lord, give me more, Lord, how do I live this? And so how, are you doing that in your prayer life, or you're just playing it out?
On a daily basis, yes.
You are, amen,
Yes.
That's amazing. So do you see what he's doing? He's seeking the Lord over the prophetic word that he has in his life. And the more that he asks for it, the more it's the desire of his heart, the more that he's seeking the Lord's face, the more he's going to find them.
Come on.
and more is going to play out in his life. So seek him, seek him, seek him. Make a note of any conditions or requirements on your part. So if God gives you something and says you need to do A before B, make sure that you write that down. Or if God says you need to go back and do this to make something right before you can go forward, do that. And see, he'll speak to you in many different ways. It's not always going to be an encouraging way when you first look at it, but it might be like, okay, it's a necessary thing to do. I'm not going to use the other word. It's a necessary thing to do to be able to move forward in life, to be able to move forward. So listen to what God's saying, write it down, and do what he says. Mark any words that indicate timing or seasons. So this is so difficult. I can't tell you how, or you probably might already know. It's very difficult to receive a word and like, okay, now Lord, when is that going to come to pass? When is it going to come to pass? And for me, when I give prophetic words, normally I don't have time frames on them. Recently, I've been getting some more time frames and telling people what I feel, what I see, what I sense. But before I didn't. And for me, myself, I was like, oh, come on, Lord. Yeah, let's do this together now. Because we're so anxious to have these things, play out right now. So, and then make a list of any metaphors or biblical references that you want to research any further. So a lot of times he speaks in riddles.
Yeah.
He hides things from the learned. And when he does that, it's because there's only certain ears that can hear, and there's only certain eyes that can see. And those are his chosen. So he's going to hide things so that at certain times and certain places, he's going to reveal them to you, and that's the time for its activation to start. He's so good. And then notice how many times, this is really important too when you go forward, notice how many times a word, idea, or theme is repeated. And then determine major and minor themes within your prophetic words. So what it really is you want to gain this accurate, clear picture of what God is speaking through your prophetic words. So let's go through Noah's word again, nice and slow.
Yeah. So I'm just going to read the first portion again. So, oh, my brother sitting right over here, I saw you running full speed. I mean full speed like a bull charging, and you were charging into prisons.
So if Nuno was running at me, I think he looked like a bull running at me. He's got some strength to him. Get out of the way. But think about what that's saying. You look like a bull running at full speed, charging into prisons, breaking down walls to get to what God calls his. And so how does that resonate with you, those words that you hear, you see? What does that speak to you?
That speaks to me that I don't listen to anybody. Yeah. And when I want to do something, I'll do it. Yeah. And I don't look back.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's me. That's the way I am.
Right.
So that's a word of identity then, right? So did we say we want to circle or underline,
so
whatever color you want?
Yeah.
So something really particular about the bull gets his eye on the prize. There's absolutely no distracting it, and once it starts running, it does not deter from its target, right? So it's really important. So that's an incredible portion. Okay. So and what I heard the Lord say, young men who have never been taught what a father is, you're going to break through the system to get to them. And I saw young men around your feet.
So that goes to number 3 where it says, underline any promises that God is making to you. So underline what he just spoke to you. So that's a promise of God.
So what's the promise? Like what part?
So the promise in this case, when he goes in, he's not going to be striving to get people to come to him. They are already looking for him. So it's not, you know how sometimes you go in somewhere and you're trying to build up a ministry and you really have to work? These people are ready for him to come in. They're actually waiting on him.
And it's the favor of God.
It is.
Isn't the promise too that he set the table, right? He set the table for this to happen.
Oh,
yeah.
You're not gonna have to work hard at it.
Exactly.
You're just gonna have to keep your eyes open for it.
Right. Show up and move forward.
That's it. Yeah.
Okay. And you were saying to them, you are going to live, little brother. You're going to live, son. And they saw you as a big brother and a father. And you spoke life to them.
So
So what does that say to you?
Well, like I said before, you know, when the kids or whoever gets hurt, I don't like it. So I try to talk to them. I try to put sense into them. I try to, you know, change their minds about something they want to do or not do. Even yesterday, we were at the party, and a couple of mothers were getting upset because kids are running around all over the place. So I grabbed a couple of them, the more hyper ones, and I, listen, do you want to see your mother upset? Do you want to go home? And they look at me and they'll say, no, I would like to play. So if you want to play, you got to slow down a little bit. And they did for a little bit, and then they went back to them. But they did because their mothers were getting upset because they kept on calling, and I spoke to them a couple of times, and they listened. So, you know, that's why I think that's something that you know, I tried to put into them, you know, some sense, some, you know, try to open their eyes to better things, try to open their minds to, you know, for them to set their minds to a certain way so they don't diverge from the point they gotta be at.
Yeah, that's awesome. And if you go ahead.
No, you go first.
You read that line, and there were a number of times that the word son is repeated. Does it mean speak?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
All right, so when we're reading this, you see little brother, you see you're going to live son, and then it goes back and it references, so that's the ministry portion. So you are going to the sons and the little brothers, but your identity is spoken in big brother and father, right? And so there's a familial aspect of what's going to be occurring here, so you're going to those who are lost. But so far, we've seen father several, so we've seen father, son, father. So over and over again, you're getting this position that you're being led to, and so it's a theme that's in this word that you want to make sure to pay attention to.
Okay.
So at this point, you would want to go back and, you know, go there and say, because they've never been taught what a father is, you are going to be a big brother and a father to them. You are going to speak life to them, and it's what our Father does to us, right? So you, and it actually lays out the type of ministry that you're going to be giving to them, right? Because he's saying, I want you to be my direct representative as father.
How does that resonate with you?
You know?
Yeah, that's awesome.
But I saw literally guards all around you. I saw wardens around you. I saw lawyers around you. There's something about the educational system and the system of putting these young men behind bars and retraining them and teaching them. God's going to put you right in the middle of jails and prisons and education to save young men, and you will be an example to them. So what are you seeing there?
This last part I didn't get very good.
Okay, let me
It was
break it down a little bit more.
Okay.
We'll go line by line, because
okay.
that'll make it a little bit easier. So, but I saw literally guards all around you. I saw wardens around you. I saw lawyers around you. So earlier on, he says, I see you like a bull running full speed into prisons. Now, then you have the word about being a father to many. Now he's coming back. He's saying, I see guards, wardens, and lawyers around you. So guards, wardens, and lawyers are a sign of protection and a sign of justice, right?
Okay.
So when you go in there, you're actually going to have a surrounding of protection. So sometimes when people go into jail surroundings, they can get overly cautious and aware. And sometimes you need to be, right? Sometimes you need to be, but sometimes it actually interferes in the ministry that you're going to do. I've seen it several times. But he's saying here to you, not only do I see the location where you are, but I see the measure of protection around you and provision.
Yeah, and I see it's what's happened already in your life is a precursor of what's going to happen. Because you already talked to your friend about his son, about jail, about the lawyers. So that's all taste, a precursor of what's going to happen.
Right.
So it's already playing out.
Yeah.
You know, even the exact words that were spoken over you are the exact words that are happening in your life.
There's something about the educational system and the system of putting these young men behind bars and retraining them and teaching them.
How do you feel about that?
Yeah, my friend's kid, I told him maybe it's good for him to stay there for a couple of weeks, so maybe he'll set his mind straight.
Yeah.
He was like, really gonna tell me this? Listen, sometimes you know, it's the best,
Yeah.
you know. And he came out, and after he came out, he says his kid was totally different.
What's your profession?
Me, I'm a laborer,
Like
construction laborer,
construction?
local 472.
Shout out.
So when I'm looking at this, oftentimes in prisons, there's programs that the inmates can go into, whether they're work programs so they can get some skills before they're released. Oftentimes people are in prison 20, 30 years, and the world that they come out to is not the same of what it used to be. So they have educational programs there that can build them up and give them skills. Now, sometimes the teachers, their purpose for being there is not what yours would be, to build them up spiritually in their identity so they're able to walk forward and do good in the world, right? They're just there to get them some skills and get them out because they're rotating and they need space, right?
Exactly.
So when I am looking at this and seeing the educational system and we link it up with being what a father is, I feel like the re-education is not just giving them skills so they can have some sort of resume, but it's giving them skills for a successful life. And there's a really big difference. And some of our prisons have this established while others don't.
Yeah, I was looking back at the word and just a little bit further, and it was talking about him educating, about training, about breaking things.
I mean, would that be like
Yeah.
would that be a requirement on his part to get into the education?
Well, that's a good question.
It says here that he's going to be put in the middle of education to save young men and be an example to them. So yes, I believe it's part of the requirement. Yeah. And go ahead.
Or could he be placed with educators, in the middle of educators, him be willing to take what the educators are saying and put it out to the kids, instead of having to go through the rigmarole of education? But he could be,
Like a back support that they will.
a back support,
Liaison.
liaison, an ambassador
Yeah.
for the educators to work with the sons, the young men, so he can take his current knowledge and the educator's knowledge, blend it together, so it will mesh in right with the people he's working with.
Potentially. I mean, there are different ways to get into the
Right.
system of education. Of course, there are different levels. There are teachers, but there are people behind the scene creating the curriculum that the teachers are to follow. So I'm not sure, it's not specific to that level, but I know for the fact that because it says, I saw you right in the middle of the system, that God will open the doors to put him exactly where he's supposed to be positioned.
So he's
With-
gonna step into it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And before that even says, I see young men at your feet.
Right.
So,
I think he's the teacher.
That's
So,
oh, sorry.
Didn't it say that he was already prepared, that he already had everything
yes.
Yeah.
he needed to do the job?
Yeah.
So that doesn't seem like it was gonna require him.
Too much.
Exactly.
But it still requires activation of him to be able to step into, yes, I will.
Right.
So that's really the requirement. Yes, I will.
just what I got when I just heard that was, lots of times if you get a prophetic word, there's an anxiety that comes with it, like I have to perform
Right?
to meet the prophetic.
Yeah.
No, I think that says that you're gonna be surrounded with resources.
Mhm.
So you don't have to worry about the logistics, you just have to be at the spot the Lord tells you to be at the time you need to be there, and that's the assurance that comes, it's an assurance.
Yeah, and
I agree.
that brings us to the next word. So God says you're already ready. There are things you have been through that have prepared you for this next season. You are already ready. Let me start from the sentence right before that. You shall be an example to them. And God says you're already ready. There are things that have prepared you for this next season. You're already ready. So timing is spoken several times here as well, another theme. So the themes that are running through this prophetic word are, you are going to be a father, you are going to be teaching men in the prisons, reforming education, and the time is now.
And the
Right.
testimony of your experience that you've already gone through has already prepared you. You're ready. Because what you've experienced, you already carry. And when you go into the system, you're gonna have the education from your testimony, from your experiences, to be able to speak to these other children, to be able to speak to these young men.
And so I want to ask you, because I keep getting this in my mind, do you feel like a teacher?
Maybe some occasions, yes.
Some occasions? Okay. Yeah, because when we hear the word education, the first thing that comes to our mind is teacher. But it says God has called him to be a father, right? So you have to be really like mindful of the prophetic words that you're receiving with the words that God himself uses. Because if Nuno got stuck in here with education, I have to teach these kids, and he wasn't sensing that he's a teacher, he could lose his opportunity where God was actually calling him to be a father. Fathers are automatically teachers, right? Because you're constantly raising up. It says that he's going to be calling them little brothers, and he's going to speak life into them, right? So you're already well equipped with biblical foundations that give life, right? You're already ready. So when you're looking at your prophetic words, you want to make sure not to get stuck on one word, but to get all these words of identity, link them all together and flow.
And how much easier and much more of a relief is it to know that I don't have to learn anything. God's already given it to me. I already have it, you know, and you can just step into it because of your testimony, your experiences, and all that stuff. You already have it. It's already inside of you. It's just a relief, right?
Yeah.
So the anxiety, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah,
No more.
No more. Yeah.
Can you go over to mobilizing?
Yeah, so mobilizing and activating the word. So when a person has judged his prophetic word to be accurate and has processed them to clearly understand what God is speaking, he then has the power to put them into action. So we've processed this word here with you today. How do you feel now that we've gone through it? Do you feel you can even grab it more and hold it and run with it? And
I think so. I think now I'm on the right path
right.
to do what it needs to be done.
Yeah. Do you think that you'd feel more comfortable stepping out into it now?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. That's exactly it. Because that's the activation. That's what we really. And that's why we do this. Is because we want to activate you guys to be able to go out into different places. We really, 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 really. I'll say it again. Really want to hear testimonies. We want to see you guys step out. Because when you guys step out, God shows up in such amazing ways that you can't even fathom. And then you have testimony, and then you have faith, and then it builds, and then you want to do more, and then you want to teach more, you want to tell more. And it just does what? It tells everybody about Jesus, your face lights up, and you're becoming a disciple with the things that you do. So that's why we're here at this class. We want to encourage people, we want to edify them, you know? Yeah.
Hi, I'm gonna piggyback off that because I'm seeing not only is he doing it in the prisons, but when kids are released from prisons, he's still gonna be a part of that.
When they're released from prisons?
Yeah, like that's what I'm seeing. Like, and I also see parents coming around you too. That's all I got.
You know, one thing that's really interesting, my family's from New York, from the Bronx and Queens and Harlem. They're all over every borough in New York, really. But one trend that we've seen is that when men go to jail, people are left fatherless, right? So even though you're called to the system of education, you could be restoring families, teaching these men how to be fathers, especially because they may not even have known their father themselves. So that's going to be super encouraging, super impactful. But when they get out, they'll be able to make a stronger impact on their communities if they know how to father themselves. So after reading this and getting to a point where you're more comfortable with it, what steps can you take? How are you going to mobilize? How are you going to partner with this word moving forward? Like, what are your next steps that you perceive?
Well, I think I gotta talk, I gotta talk to some people. I gotta try to get from them what they're feeling. I gotta see if they got any friends or they need help. I gotta talk to a lot more people, not just my friend like I talk about, but I gotta step out, like Beth said, and try to go around to see who needs help, who doesn't. I think that's one way to start. That's one way that I can start, that I know I can start.
Okay. You ready for the hard question? When are you going to do that?
I think I already started.
Okay, all right, come on,
He's ahead of you.
right?
I think he's ready.
That's it.
All right, like a world started. All right, so I am, can we, what was after mobilizing? Okay. All right. So part of mobilizing and moving forward isn't just getting your ideas of what needs to happen. So once you have your ideas of what needs to happen, what you're comfortable with the next steps are, you need to get confirmation from God, right? Because if it's not the steps that He wants you to take, you can keep walking all you want, and it's not going to prosper at the level that He's ordained it to. So then you need to go back to Him and pray for confirmation. Lord, I am so ready to take these steps. This is the direction I think I need to go. Is this the direction that you want me to go? And once you get confirmation, you align yourself to step out. The second thing you really need to do is prepare your character, right? Sometimes the prophetic word, the timeline, unlike him, because he's already ready, it's like, come on. And sometimes God says, no, I want you to wait a year. And in that time of waiting, if you have a time of waiting, it's for the purpose of character building, right? So you can position yourself to be able to wield whatever it is that God has called you to use the tools that you're going to be using. And so in partnering with the word at that point looks like continuing, let's say, to study a certain subject. Or if you're going to be, I don't know, joining a ladies' quilt thing because you're called to that quilt making group, learning how to sew. Whatever it is, you need to gain the skills that you're going to be using at that next time of life so that you can really flourish there. And creating a mindset to operate in the arena that He has called you to. So that time of waiting is never just sitting and waiting for the door to open, because if that door opens and you're not ready, you're going to get swamped and knocked over.
You're partnering with Papa at every stage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's all I wanted to say. So does anyone have questions on how we process this word today, or? No, because we went a little bit over
I thought it
time.
was really helpful.
Yeah. And if you guys ever have a word that you want to process, George is on the prophetic team, I'm on the prophetic team, Pat, PC, Natalie.
Yeah.
There are so many resources at our church that we could walk step by step with you through any word that you've received or that you want to give. Yeah. Awesome.
Thank you, guys. We appreciate you coming. And don't forget, we are meeting next week.
Can we just pray when you're not?
That's what I was going to ask you. Yeah. So how about we all come up here and lay hands on you?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I want to give props to him because he came up in the front and he didn't have to.
Yeah.
So, way to go. That's hard, right? Ooh.